World War II, the greatest conflict of all time. The war that was never really meant to happen. World War II is filled with so many amazing facts and stories, but today we are going to show only a little fraction of those facts. Here are 20 insane facts about World War II. On September 2, 1944, an American torpedo bomber was hit by Japanese anti-aircraft fire. 8 of the 9 crewmen were captured by the Japanese in Eden. The only one who survived was picked up by a passing submarine. He would later live to become the President of the United States. His name is George H.W. Bush. The most decorated unit in the history of the United States is the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. The unit consisted of Japanese-American soldiers. This unit together won 4,667 medals, of which 4,000 Bronze Stars, 560 Silver Stars, 52 Distinguished Service Crosses, and 1 Medal of Honor, plus 54 other decorations. The unit was also famous for having no desertion cases. The greatest tank battle in history occurred between the Germans and Russians at Kursk from July 4 to July 22, 1943. Around 2 million soldiers were involved in the battle, together with more than 8,000 tanks and 5,000 aircraft. The end result of the battle was a decisive Soviet victory. After the sneak attack at Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt searched for a bulletproof car. However, because government regulation prohibited spending more than $750 to buy a car, the only one they could find was Al Capone's limo, which had been seized by the Treasury Department after he was arrested for tax evasion. The president said, "I hope Mr. Capone won't mind." It is estimated that the Holocaust has ended 1.5 million children's lives. 1.3 million of them were Jewish and tens of thousands were Gypsies. World War II was the deadliest and most destructive war in the history. Deaths are ranging from 60 to 70 million people. Approximately 50 million of them were civilians and over 60 million were from the Allied countries. The Soviet Union has lost the most lives at around 27 million. It is interesting that 80% of Soviet males born in 1923 didn't see the end of the war. Approximately 600,000 Jews served in the United States Armed Forces during World War II. More than 35,000 were killed, wounded, captured, or missing. Approximately 8,000 died in combat. However, only 2 Jewish soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor in World War II. The Japanese kamikaze tactic was suggested on October 19, 1944, by Vice Admiral Onishi in an attempt to balance the technological advantage of invading American forces. Though the numbers are disputed, approximately 2,800 kamikaze pilots died while taking 34 American ships down with them. The Battle of the Bulge is the last large German offensive in World War II and also the deadliest battle for U.S. troops to date, with more than 80,000 American casualties in just 1 month. On January 31, 1945, Private Eddie Slavik was shot for desertion. He was the first American executed for the crime since the Civil War and the only one to suffer this punishment during World War II. The greatest loss of life ever sustained by the U.S. Navy occurred on July 30, 1945. The USS Indianapolis was shot by Japanese submarine I-58. Only 316 out of 1,196 survived. Captain Charles McVeigh, commanding officer of the cruiser, was court-martialed for losing the ship. More than 650,000 Jeeps were built during World War II. American factories also produced 300,000 military aircraft, 89,000 tanks, 3 million machine guns, and 7 million rifles. Anne Frank and her sister died at Bergen-Belsen in March 1945, 1 month before the camp was liberated. During its existence, nearly 50,000 people died. After evacuating the camp, British soldiers burned it to the ground to prevent the spread of typhus. In 1942, the Polish Second Corps adopted a very specific soldier named Wojtek. He was not a man but rather a large Syrian brown bear. Wojtek served with the 22nd Artillery Supply Company at the Battle of Monte Cassino in Italy in 1944. Wojtek was helping soldiers carry ammunition crates. After the war, he was sent to Edinburgh, Scotland, where he lived until his death on the 2nd of December 1963. The number of German soldiers who died fighting the Russians was so high that it is estimated that 4 in every 5 Germans were killed on the Eastern Front. The Battle of Stalingrad was the bloodiest battle of the entire war. The battle began on August 23, 1942 and lasted up until February 2, 1943. More than 2 million people were killed in the battle. The end was the first great Soviet victory and a turning point of the war. An Imperial Japanese Army intelligence officer, who fought in World War II, Hiroo Onoda, never surrendered in 1945. Until 1974, for almost 30 years, he held his position in the Philippines. His former commander traveled from Japan to personally issue orders relieving him from duty in 1974. After Germany officially surrendered and the war was finally over, the Russians were celebrating so much that the entire country ran out of vodka in the first 24 hours of Stalin declaring victory over Germany. During World War II, 2 Polish doctors saved the lives of 8,000 Jews in the town of Rozda by faking a typhus epidemic that stopped the Nazis from entering the town. They were successful and the Germans never entered the town. The best sniper of World War II was a Finnish man named Simo Häyhä, also known as the White Death. He has killed 542 Soviet soldiers in just 100 days using only his rifle's iron sights and no scope.